As the U.S. Israel war with Iran escalates and strikes hit Abraham Accord partners and Gulf allies, America's commitments face a defining test. Explosive divisions are emerging in Washington over the conflict's origins and purpose. I'm Alicia Powe in Washington for TvAbraham. Welcome to Inside the Capitol. For decades, Iran has stood at the center of global tensions, its internal dynamics shaping not only the region, but the strategic calculations of Washington and its allies. But as pressure mounts on the regime, a new question is emerging. What happens the day after? Could a new leadership rise from within? Is there a path toward democratic governance, or even a return to a different political model? And how should the United States position itself in a moment that could redefine Iran's future? Today we ask lawmakers to look beyond the crisis and confront the possibilities ahead.
Well, I think all along the administration has said be weeks, not months, and they have been extremely effective. All indications are they are ahead of schedule. The other Gulf states are joining us, and I'm hopeful that other allies will join us as well. But I think, and they're bringing some additional capabilities in to help make sure the Strait of Hormuz is secured. So again, I think they're on a weeks, not months timeline to finish. We're decimating their military ability. So they're just striking out however they can. And that's about all they can do as we completely take out their ability to launch ballistic missiles or to send these one-way drones. And of course, we're going after their nuclear program as well, okay? So they're just striking out in the ways they still can, but we're taking away their capability to do that as well. But by striking out the way they are, that means we may be able to get more of the Gulf state Arab countries to join in the Abraham Accord. So again, this is about taking out Iran's capability to wage terror, not only through the region but beyond, but also hopefully creating a situation for greater stability long-term in the Middle East.
Well, what you hope is that the people of Iran at some point feel comfortable that they can go out and take back their government. I trust the president, I trust the Secretary of War, I trust Dan Kane, and they're going to make sure that Iran does not have nuclear weapons or ability to do it, or ballistic missiles that's going to kill Americans. That was our purpose, and they're doing it.
You'd have to ask the Trump administration. They have no explanation for why we got into it, what the goals are, or what the paths out of it are. So everyone just looks to however it is the Republicans happen to be feeling today. This is their war, and I'm worried that it may be a forever war.
Do you have any message to the Iranian people?
My message is to the American people. In a democracy, this should not be happening. The American people voted for Donald Trump when he said he would lower costs on day one and that he would be a president of peace, not war. Instead, he has bombed Iran for reasons he cannot explain, no imminent threat, and now he is spending more than $1 billion a day in order to continue that bombing at a time when we could be using that $1 billion a day here for people who are struggling to pay for health care, for people who are struggling to pay for child care, for people who are struggling in their own lives. America First means not spending money halfway around the world. It means spending it at home. Yeah. Look, Donald Trump has gotten America into such a mess, and they don't know how to get out of it. And that shouldn't be any surprise, because they never could explain why we got in, they could never explain what the goals are, and they could never explain what the path on the way out is. But here's what's happening. We keep spending more than $1 billion a day to continue bombing halfway around the world. We should be spending that money here at home.
What lessons should be drawn from past regime change scenarios to avoid instability and fragmentation in Iran?
Well,
Listen, I think that you've got to have a narrowly defined mission. You've got to go at it with overwhelming force, and then when you're done with the mission, you've got to get out. So they're not good actors. That's for sure true.
You need to ask the president that, because I don't think even he knows what their end game is.
There's never been a time where there's been regime change where boots on the ground were not required, and I don't know that this president of the United States is being honest with the American people about where things stand right now, and given that this president has no plan, and that the Secretary of State and the Secretary of Defense contradict each other when they speak publicly, should be a concern to all of us. President Trump has been lying to the American people, and he should be honest with them. This isn't about Congress. This is about the president being truthful and honest with the American people. And if the president has some sort of idea or plan, he's not sharing it with anyone.
Well, I don't think that this was well thought out. It wasn't planned. They didn't come to Congress. They clearly initiated a war. You can see that by the words and the actions of the president himself. And there are consequences to all of this. How many service members have lost their lives already, and how many more? And so we know we've seen this play before. And I think the president should have come to Congress. He didn't, and we're going to find a way to hold it all accountable.
I think the president's made it very clear he had 4 goals. He wants to end Iranians' missile program, their nukes, their navy, and prevent them from being able to fund and arm terrorists in the future. And right now, I think the ball's in the president's court, and we need to be going full speed ahead until he's ready to negotiate.
My core concern is that President Trump has not successfully explained to the American people what his core objectives are for this war. And as it's become more and more costly, and as the Pentagon is rumored to be asking for $200 billion more, I'm not clear if his core objective is regime change, securing all of Iran's legacy nuclear enrichment sites, blocking their export of oil, reopening the Strait of Hormuz. All of these are very expensive and ambitious objectives, and I'm concerned about the path forward and the cost. Our Constitution says Congress declares war, and if you're going to open a war that may cost thousands of lives and hundreds of millions of dollars, you can't say that this is a short-term response to an imminent threat. So that's my response.
The president is on the verge of getting us into another Iraq and another Afghanistan. $200 billion, and he hasn't even told us what the war plan is. I mean, the fact is, the president's initial objective was the nuclear program. He says it's obliterated. Then the missile program, he says that's been destroyed. Those are worthy objectives, but a land war in Iran is an absolute catastrophe.
In a major Washington bombshell, National Counterterrorism Center Director Joe Kent quit in protest over the Iran war. In his explosive letter to President Trump, Kent declared, "Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation, and we started this war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby." The claim sparked fierce backlash, an FBI probe, and sharp divisions on the Hill.
Well, obviously he disagrees with the policy of the administration, and the honorable thing to do is to resign. So I'm glad he did that. The president's doing the right thing. Joe Kent was absolutely wrong. Iran's developing, enriching uranium and developing a nuclear weapon. That's unacceptable. The president's absolutely right.
Remember, this is a MAGA person saying this as well. Now, I have many concerns associated with his statements in the past, but his statement directly to the President of the United States is something that should get the attention of all of President Trump's cabinet. Secretary of State Rubio, as well as Secretary of Defense Hegseth, both indicated, as well as President Trump, that the reason the United States struck was because of Prime Minister Netanyahu's action.
Israel's a very important and staunch ally, but obviously the administration, the president, Secretary of War, they're directing, our strategy, but we're fighting with Israel. And Israel's providing very important capabilities to us in terms of intelligence and other things. And actually, my response to that would be more of our allies should join us in this effort. Iran has waged terror on countries throughout the world. And so they have a very strong vested interest in what we're doing for their own safety and security, and they should be joining us and helping us, along with Israel.
I think President Trump decides what he wants to do when he wakes up every day, and he just does that. I don't think he listens to anybody. You see him every day. Yesterday he said that he has the honor of taking Cuba and can do whatever he wants with it. I think he wakes up every day and just does whatever the heck he wants.
It's based on President Trump always defaulting to make sure he protects American citizens, to make sure he keep us safe. And if you saw the intelligence, you'd have the same conclusion. Nobody drags President Trump into anything. He's the commander-in-chief, he's in charge. The idea that anybody would have bullied or somehow pushed President Trump in a direction is just laughable at its face for anybody who understands how President Trump works. Maybe he's confusing Trump with Biden.
As the Iran war intensifies and resignations reveal fractures in Washington, the questions for the region's future and the Abraham Accords' promise of peace and prosperity remain urgent. I'm Alicia Powe in Washington for TvAbraham.